make the chimney fucking chompers.
Language!
That's what I do. I drink, and I know things.
Welcome to the Nerdcast with your hosts, Doxanus 288 and Snakeskin 94. On this episode of the Nerdcast, we take a look at Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace.
Well then, it is 6 weeks till The Force Awakens.
It's 6 weeks until the fanboy awakens. Holy crap.
This is going to be amazing. Hey, what's up, guys? This is DarkSamus288, and I have a guest with me. Say hello.
Yeah, named Snakeskin94. Not the first time on the channel, but the first time on camera. And we got a special planned. 6 weeks, 6 Star Wars movies, soon to be 7. John had the idea, hey, let's do some math. And I was like, okay. And so we're going to review the movies. 1 a week.
No one said there'd be math. I blame our schools. Sorry, obligatory Mad World reference there.
So we're gonna go in chronological order with these, which starts with the Phantom Menace. As soon as the name just brings about an entire onwave of just hate and ridicule and criticism from an entire generation of people. It brings hate on that poor kid that played Anakin, who literally only did this and then Jingle All the Way, and he never made a movie again.
And now he's dead.
Yeah. So I like the movie.
It's a good movie, honestly.
Now,
I don't get why.
While I go, set up barbed wire around my house.
Now, when Attack of the Clones comes, however, boy, we're gonna rip this a new one.
Oh god!
But for right now, we got Phantom Menace, and it's not that bad. It's not as bad as people think.
I mean, let's bring it. The problem was, there are times when good actors are in bad movies. And of course, we never want a Star Wars movie to be bad because it's goddamn Star Wars. So there's that. And Liam Neeson tried the hardest out of every single person in this movie. Like, I mean, it's common knowledge that he didn't read the script. He just accepted to do it, which, I mean, it's not too far out of reach for him. Before that, he was in like a few of those old Sword and Sandals movies from like the 80s. And Natalie Portman, as Amidala and stuff. It's so weird. She's a good actress, like a really, really good actress, but she's kind of wooden a bit here. And you can say the writing, sure, but then you gotta just comment on the performance. Now, I've never been one to just instantly throw all the blame on George Lucas, but it's so complicated, dude.
Here's the thing. With movie making in general, there is a lot of stuff that goes into it. There's lighting, there's sound, there's effects, there's everything that goes into it. But when you look at something like this, you're looking at a group of really good actors, Liam Neeson being one of them. I'm a big fan of Ewan McGregor.
I was about to say, Ewan McGregor's an accomplished actor, too.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I feel that it was kind of the writing and the directing that kind of held them back. Because if you really look at it, Liam Neeson, when he's put in a good movie, he's really good.
Oh, yeah.
But when he's put in a mediocre movie, sort of like this one, he's kind of at the mercy of the director, if you want to put it that way.
Well, because, I mean, George Lucas, I mean, I understand why George Lucas took an active role in the prequel trilogy more so than even the other ones, because I mean, this was setting up his whole universe. I mean, all the books and the games at that point. I mean, even before it got called the Legacy Universe, the expanded universe. None of that was really canon. And Lucas felt that I think Lucas felt like he needed to shed some light on some things, see where things came from, because the whole point of the prequel trilogy is who was Anakin Skywalker, where did he come from, and how did he become Darth Vader? And you do see that, but it's just, I don't think it's done in a way that what he was going for was cool. It's just, I think the writing could have been a little better. But I mean, I do think the Phantom Menace is a good picture. It's got good action in it. I will defend this movie on basically anything, even Jar Jar to a point. But the one thing I will not defend is that whole 20 minutes they're on Coruscant. Boring
Oh my gosh.
as crap. Other than that though, I like them. I like the movie.
And I get, Lucas, I get that this is a republic that has politics. I get that.
Yeah.
But you don't have to go so in depth with it.
I think the whole point of it and the setting up of Palpatine, being there as the, being there as a senator, I think the whole point was to show, not only did it show Palpatine's eventual rise to power, but it also showed why one of the reasons why Anakin would be so pissed off is because, I'm sorry, they made the Jedi look out to be pompous know-it-all snobs. And honestly, when you look back on it, Order 66, they kind of deserved most of that. And they made the whole Republic out to be nothing but a bunch of incompetent old farts. Mm-hmm. So basically, he gave it an accurate representation of Congress. Oh!
And when
sad thing is, I'm right.
And when you really think about it, the Jedi in general kind of almost went against all of their rules. Because think about it. In episode 1, in episode 2, they're clearly stated, we're keepers of the peace, not soldiers, yet they become soldiers during the Clone Wars.
Right, but they're straight up commandos and generals. Yoda has led like 30 different attacks with Commander Cody, so especially in the Clone Wars TV shows, Yoda's just straight up like General Patton out there.
Mm-hmm.
But
absolutely,
with the speech impediment, in the movie, another point of criticism people had was the fact that it blended. Is that they had CGI. Honestly, I don't mind CGI in Star Wars because honestly, it sounds like it makes sense to have those kind of things in a Star Wars movie. I mean, granted, it was really awesome that they made all the old Star Wars movie with practical effects. That's a testament to creative filmmaking. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't care what anyone says, that fight with Dooku and Yoda was awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
And the whole thing with the Emperor, they couldn't have achieved that with the puppets, which that's an interesting thing that Roger Ebert, and that film critic, and Richard Roper talked about. They were talking about Attack of the Clones, and Ebert was one of those guys saying how the CGI was dumb and how I guess there were people that didn't like that lightsaber fight because it was out of character for Yoda. And his whole argument was basically, Yoda's like some 100 years old. He has the Force, and Roper's like, yeah, but he's fighting another Jedi dude with these powers. And Ebert just closes out his argument with, "You're Yoda. No one can stop you when you're Yoda." And Roper was like, "Well, shut up, Roger."
Yeah, pretty much. Now here's the thing. We could go through this whole movie, scene by scene, because God knows we know these movies like the back of our hands.
Even the ones we don't like.
Even freaking episode 2. I hate this movie with a passion, Yet I still know pretty much every line word for word.
You know Attack of the Clones is going to be the most popular one because this one everyone's indifferent about. The next one everyone hates. And Revenge of the Sith, everyone's like, you know what? Honestly, that movie's pretty dope.
Yeah. Now, the Phantom Menace, you start
I mean, we'll
out.
go over key scenes, but like
yeah,
Ron said, we're not going to go over the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars. It's required watching if you're a human being.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing. With the opening crawl, it's talking about how there is what's called the Trade Federation, which, do you notice we never actually really understand the Trade Federation?
That's a question I've had for years. They never once talked about they never talked about what the Trade Federation was. They never really said what the viceroys really did. I mean, they represented the Trade Federation, but they were in the pocket of the Emperor. Well, Sidious. But all they did was wage war.
Absolutely. And it's really kind of weird.
Were they like a space yakuza or like Hell's Angels where it's like if you're a diplomatic society, they come in and like we can offer you some protection if you pay us.
I don't know. It honestly could be something like that.
And the film opens. We meet Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Really thinking about it. I don't want to say Obi-Wan is upstaged by Qui-Gon, but I do appreciate that they take time to note that Obi-Wan is still young and headstrong and brash. He's not the wise old Ben Kenobi we know from the old movies. And you effectively through Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, you do see Obi-Wan does actually have a pretty noticeable character arc. Because you see him become smarter and wiser over time. Not to mention his skills increase. I mean, god dang, he took down General Grievous and that whole thing by himself. He had the clones come in, but that wasn't until later. Honestly, it's even more impressive if you see how you do it on the PS2 version of that movie. But my point is
gosh, that game is hard.
That game's fun though.
I know it is. It's super fun.
But what I'm getting at is so I don't ramble on is I do like that arc, and I do like that. I like that they took the time to establish Qui-Gon, because even though he did die, it really is noticeable how impactful his lessons were on Obi-Wan, and just how impactful he was on him as a character. So that's cool. And plus Qui-Gon the badass.
Mm-hmm. And what I find interesting is, especially with Qui-Gon, while he might be very much the kind of, I don't care what the council says, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
And that's saying something, especially for a Jedi Master.
Yeah.
But really, kind of even going into the prequel books, like the books that came before Episode 1, it established that Qui-Gon was a very respectable Jedi in the Order.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can kind of even. No, sorry, go on.
Because every time he would come to the Jedi Temple to see the new Padawan batch, he'd always come, look, and leave. He'd never grab an apprentice, and it actually Obi-Wan sort of became an apprentice, not from Qui-Gon choosing him, but by Obi-Wan proving himself to Qui-Gon.
And Qui-Gon is shown that even though he's older, he's a very commendable fighter. I mean, it's shown that Darth Maul is stronger and faster than him, but I think it's impressive to note that he was able to keep up. And if I'm not mistaken, because the colors of the lightsaber have significance, the green lightsaber, it doesn't necessarily say you're a master because there are Padawans with green lightsabers, but doesn't it mean that you're kind of like a level, you're a level above an average Jedi, kind of, because Yoda's lightsaber is green, Qui-Gon's lightsaber is green, Anakin wields a green lightsaber in Episode 2.
I'm not sure.
Because blue definitely seems to be the more generic lights, and it's the color we think of when we think of a lightsaber. Because red versus blue, good versus evil.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it kind of makes sense. I think that's why Luke had a green saber in Return of the Jedi, because at that point, he's way smarter and wiser than he ever was in Empire Strikes Back. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Pretty much from what I know, the green lightsaber represents peacekeepers,
that makes sense.
and blue, it means to protect. So, if you're really thinking about it,
Wow, good choice giving that one to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith.
I know, right?
Oh my
Kind of
god.
crazy. So basically, kind of going forward a little bit, when you were saying when he's a commendable fighter, I definitely see that, because if you realize when they first free Amidala, Captain Panaka, and the other guard, literally all he does, he slices into a droid, closes his lightsaber up, puts it back in his cloak,
and Force pushes 3 other droids.
All in the span of like
2 seconds.
It's just like, I'm just like, dang.
Yeah,
reflexes.
And that's and I've read some of those old books of Qui-Gon too, and so I think that's why they made a big deal about him defying the council, because here you got this guy that he's like a by the book hard knocks Jedi, but when he was training Obi-Wan, I never got a feeling like he was really like forceful or intimidating. He's actually he's definitely no pacifist, but he's definitely a patient, methodical man, which to me gives him more of an edge, because you could see how well he could use the Force. So, that's kudos to Qui-Gon.
Literally, the first couple lines of the movie, literally, Obi-Wan's like, I have a bad feeling about this. I don't sense anything. It's not about the mission, Master. It's something elsewhere, elusive, which a lot of people think that could be, the eventual turn of the dark side.
Yeah.
Don't center on, or it could be the eventual death of Qui-Gon. I'm not sure.
They do actually, really quick, in the novelizations of this movie, they do include little bits from Obi-Wan's point of view of him not seeing into the future, but him kind of getting a sense of pre-deja vu. Like when Qui-Gon's fighting Maul, he has this vision of him fighting someone in a mask and cape, which Darth Vader, and little bits like that throughout the novel, which that's cool. But I kind of wish they elaborate on that more in the movie, because they really only have it in that 1 minute, and then after that, literally all life for them kind of goes to hell. So
yeah, but when going back to those lines, literally, Qui-Gon's like, don't center on your anxieties. Keep your concentration here and now where it belongs. And, Obi-Wan's like, but Master Yoda said I should be mindful of the future, but not at the expense of the moment. Be aware of the living force, what's around you at the moment. If it's going to cloud your judgment from what's happening here, it's not something you should be thinking of right now, because it's going to cloud your judgment.
Which, if you think about it, is exactly the same, is exactly what happened to Anakin, if you think about it.
Absolutely. He kept thinking of Padme dying in childbirth. And it haunted him.
And it's one of those cruel irony things where it wasn't the childbirth that killed her. That's right. She died of a broken heart. That could have worked if the love story wasn't so already sappy. The highlight to me, honestly, is when Padme and Anakin had that breakdown on Mustafar, where it's clear the dude's gone insane, like literally insane because he's the type of crazy where he's like, where as he holds the bloody knife and he's walking toward her like, I did it for you, type of crazy. Which I mean, that's cool. That makes sense. But really quick, there's one thing I want to bring up about Anakin and Padme. Padme's 15 in this movie?
I think so.
I thought she was like in her 20s and Anakin was 8. Literally until someone told me that like 2 months ago.
I think Anakin's 10, I want to say.
So it's 8 years between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones?
It's 10 years. At the
Either
point,
that still makes it
it's
weird.
literally Padme's in her mid to late teens and Anakin is 10. So if you bring that 10 years, you know, really there's only a 5-year difference, which it doesn't make it any less weird.
That doesn't
but
make any sense, though.
I understand that, but really when you think, when Sidious talks to the Viceroys and says, Amidala is young and naive, you will find controlling her will not be difficult. He knew what her age was and how young and inexperienced she was.
Yes, but and look, I'm not one of the if he was 8 and she was 20 something, whatever, and then it's like, oh, she's 30, he's 18, that to me isn't the issue. The issue I have is the fact that I don't think their ages are. I mean, Anakin stayed as 10, I think, but her age is never specified in the movie. Maybe the book, or you can find it somewhere on Wikipedia. But it's always bugged me. You know, we've been in this for a while, so we definitely need to address elephant number 1 in the room. Let's talk about Jar Jar.
Oh my gosh! In all honesty, I don't hate him.
He's not that bad.
He's not the worst thing I've ever seen.
There are
he could have
worse.
been a lot worse.
There are better, but you know the thing with Jar Jar is. The thing with Jar Jar is he's an innocent bystander caught in the crossfire. That if you think about it, think of his success story. He's literally walking through the forest. He almost gets run over, brings his friends to his people, almost dies like 7 times in that whole movie, and then he's just kind of there. But near the end of the movie, he's made a war general, and then in the second movie, he's become a senator and representative of his planet. I mean, let's be fair. That's pretty cool for him. I mean, like if I ever met Jar Jar, I'd be like, dude, congratulations! Like seriously.
Yeah, right.
You went from slumming it in the woods to, after being banished from his people's hometown, by the way, from slumming it in the woods to representing his entire planet. It's like, yo, not bad. Literally started from the bottom. Now he's here.
Yep. And I will say the only scene that still irks me with him is when Padme is cleaning up R2-D2 and that little conversation they have. It's like my nonno misa getting very much from an early morning munching, then boom, me getting very scared and grabbing that Jedi and pow, misa here. Misa getting very, very scared. But I'm just like, dude, I get that. You're wanting to look for clams. I get that. Because seriously, that's what it shows in the books. He's looking for oysters or something like that.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
And, well, he is a fish thing.
Kind of. I don't know. The dude was walking around in the desert, though.
Oh, that's true. He's more of an amphibious sort of creature than anything else, though. Almost a Gungan race.
I've been meaning to ask this, but I wanted to save it for this. I need your opinion on something.
Okay.
You know how everyone talks about, a lot of the alien representation in, well, even in the older movies, but mostly Phantom Menace, their racial profiling, like the Toydarian that holds his Anakin, his mom's slave, and even Jar Jar. I was thinking about this. Until someone told you or you heard it from someone, did you ever get that vibe at all that it was racist? because I never did.
That
Personally.
that Watto was being racist?
Yeah, well, because mind tricks don't work on me, only money, and he's got the big long nose, so people thought that he was a Jewish stereotype.
What?
Wait, you never heard that?
No.
Oh, well, you see what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
I see it now. I just thought he looked like the love child of Elf and some weird bug thing.
well, no, I mean, I'm not saying I agree with them. I'm just saying, like, until I told you that, did you ever once think that at all?
Of course not.
I never
I
did
just see
either.
him as a businessman.
A businessman with wings. So, like,
A businessman with wings who is a greedy idiot,
and that was my issue with it. That's my issue with the fans. I'll talk more about my distaste of the fans actually when we get to the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
But because Jesus Christ. But no, but no, that's always bugged me. They're like, there's racial profiling in that movie. And I'm literally sitting there like, where and how did you get that? And then they tell me, and my literal reaction is, you are looking way too hard, Holmes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we've covered Jar Jar, we've covered racial profiling.
What about the droids in general?
The droids were funny.
At least in episode 3 they were.
But they were honestly, they were actually a pretty they were actually a pretty serious threat too. I mean, those droids wrecked stuff.
I mean, they were like butter to the Jedi, but honestly, anything's like butter to a lightsaber.
But remember,
remember
in Attack of the Clones, you see Jedi get gunned down.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
Oh, that must, what must be embarrassing? Death by Genoshan.
Oh my gosh. The Geonosians were freaking awesome.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. Death by fart gun?
Pretty much. But anyway, the droids, I liked all the different variations they had. And like with the battle droids, you had the normal, just cream-colored battle droid, which was the expendable one, the stormtrooper of their day. Then you had the
droidekas.
The ones with the yellow around their neck. And I believe that constituted as a general of the droid army. And then you had one that was red around their neck.
I was gonna say, because they were different colors.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying, because I know, like from like the games, the red ones were the generals, the regular ones were whatever. The blue ones were like, they were like the engineers, I think.
Mm-hmm. Blue ones are engineers, and I believe red are security. I want to say. And
then General Grievous had his own private guards.
Oh yeah,
those things were dope.
Now the thing is, if you really look back at some of these, like at the point right before the Jedi come in and escort Amidala and Panaka and the others to their ship, right when they get taken to Camp 4 or whatever they say, which by the way, when 4. That droid said, "Roger, Roger," as a kid, me and my friends, when we would watch that, we would just be like, he's probably an old droid, or he's just getting over droid laryngitis.
Roger, Roger.
Yeah, just like Roger.
Which in itself is like, if there's one good thing I could say we got for the prequel trilogy, it was the droids and their quotability. Wait, I need identification. Wait, no, you're under arrest.
Exactly.
The droids were. I always felt bad when they got killed because it's like, no, those guys are funny.
I know, right? They were honestly a better comic relief than Jar Jar. Ooh. But
no, I'm not even. I was saying I'm not even gonna disagree with that. Okay, so and we've kind of talked about the look of the film. Honestly, I like it because it's a nice combination of green screen and practical effects too. I mean, there's minimal practical effects, but but they're interworked nicely. Like, the desert feels like a desert. The Jedi Council, it feels like I'm in a stuffy office and I want to kill myself from boredom.
Absolutely.
Just like an actual office. Things like that. The Jedis, they got their robes and stuff, and honestly, that's how Ben Kenobi dressed is exactly as a kid how I thought that the Jedis would look.
Mm-hmm. And it turns out you were right.
Well, it makes the most sense,
Mm-hmm.
They got the different colored lightsabers and stuff, and I like that. The Sith look. They got the black coats, the red sabers. I mean, I'm sorry, it's like, I don't care what anyone says. I'll rep Empire gear way more than Rebel gear. Because everyone knows that the bad guys in Star Wars are the best part of any Star Wars movie.
Absolutely. Now,
case in point, Darth Maul.
Now, another thing about the droids, the droidicas, those things were really just... I know you said that you're peeved by them.
They're cheap, they're evil, and they're no better than those guys that used to camp in Halo and multiplayer or something, and they'll just spam you with a rocket launcher. Or they'll come up behind you with a shotgun like in Call of Duty.
Now, I will say, the one thing that I like about the droidicas, and congrats to Ben Burt on some phenomenal
Ben Burt
sound design.
Yes, Ben Burt
sound design in these movies are absolutely incredible. The sound of the droidicas firing their lasers is literally from an old Cadillac.
What?
Cadillac horn.
That's funny because the TIE Fighter sound effects is as a trumpet being played backwards, right?
I think so.
See, that's one thing no one can talk crap on. The Star Wars movies are engineered awesome. Their look and sound will always look and sound cool. Which, speaking of practical effects, what do you think of Episode 7? Them putting, because people made quite a big deal about that when they announced that they were going to go back to practical effects and practical sets and stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I really don't know, because the thing is, when you're looking at the trailers and everything that we've seen, does the lighting look off to you?
Yeah, a little bit.
It doesn't look like the lighting of a Star Wars movie. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to like it just the same.
It looks like the lighting of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movie.
Except not as lens flare-y.
You know who's the originator of the lens flare? Mr. Steven Spielberg.
Oh, that lens flare in the projection room of Jurassic Park. Oh.
Okay, so we need to talk about Elephant in the Room number 2. Let's talk about Anakin. That poor kid did not deserve and it goes beyond him getting blasted by reviewers and critics and fans. Like, he's gone on note saying people would come up to him and give him crap. And I don't care who you are. I don't care what is. That is not cool. And someone tried to tell me that, well, you know what? They're the fans of the movie. They have the right to express. No, look at it like this. It's like what I say about wrestling fans. Wrestling fans can be so disrespectful to wrestlers. When wrestlers go to Japan, you know what they do in Japan? They sit there quietly, watch and observe, except when they do a power move and they slam them on the floor. They're like, oh, but then they go back to respectfully watching. Not because they're boring and not because they lack energy or passion, but that's just it. They're respectful, even to the people they don't like. And that's my thing. Hayden Christensen and this kid will forever be, their names will go down as the people that killed Star Wars. When, in all honesty, look, here's a kid that chance of a lifetime to be in a Star Wars film. when it comes to child actors, in most cases, I really don't blame the child actor at all. Because they're a child actor. No child actor is going to be like Alfalfa from Little Rascals or Shirley Temple or Macaulay Culkin, you know? So,
But even looking at Macaulay Culkin, you know, if you really look at him and how he was portrayed in Home Alone, he acts the same freaking way. And yet people don't bash him.
no, yeah, I mean,
because it's
you're
not
not wrong
Star
about
Wars. It's not Star Wars. That's why everyone is going nuts over Jake Lloyd's performance as Anakin in Episode 1.
And you know, I'm gonna bring this back up when we get to the original trilogy, but look at it like this. If the Star Wars name wasn't attached to this, or Star Wars wasn't the big, majestic legacy we all make it out to be, no one would care this much. No one cared about, the Star Trek fans didn't get this, you know, didn't light this much stuff on fire when, you know, Spock's characterization in the movies is completely off, or them completely messing with the timeline. And Star Trek, in some scenarios, Star Trek is just as big or popular as Star Wars. It's not, but sometimes it is. And that's what I'm getting at. Jake Lloyd is like the only really truly innocent party. Because for the other people, I mean, there was no reason for Natalie Portman to be so wooden. You know, there was no reason for some of that dialogue being written. But Jake Lloyd, you could see it too. The kid tried.
Absolutely, he did. I think he did a phenomenal job for what he was given. That scene where he has to leave his mother.
Oh, dude, that's heavy.
It's not only a heavy scene, but literally the kid looks like he's about to burst into tears.
Which that's what you need from a scene like that. And it's
you again.
Oh, he'll see her again. He'll see her again, all right.
When she's about to die.
I wasn't gonna say that because that has to be the best shot scene in that whole next movie.
Oh yeah.
All right, so pod racing.
Now pod racing, I think this is the best scene of the movie.
That whole 10 minutes of it going zoom, zoom. Yeah, you got Zabulba being a complete jackhole, and Anakin's just like, and Anakin's just like, well, Anakin's doing what Anakin does, and I find it entertaining. I like this pod racing scene. People are hit and miss on it. I like it. Just that's me.
I love this scene, and this is coming from a guy who's big into muscle cars and F1 racing and stuff like that. A lot of the sounds, again with Ben Burt, you know, thank you for making some phenomenal sound design, but it sounded like an F1 race. And having it go through canyons and twists and turns throughout an area, and throughout an area of Tatooine that we haven't seen, which is the Bunt Eve Classic.
Yeah, and not to mention we saw at least one of the areas where the Tusken Raiders lay home.
Oh my gosh, those Tusken Raiders were amazing.
Dude, the Tusken Raiders take no crap from anybody.
Oh man. Now the thing is, you know, going through some of them, I actually like the announcer for this race.
Oh, the two-headed one that's in English, the other one's in the Tatooine language.
Yeah, the other one's speaking Huttese. It's like, oh, I don't care what universe you're from. That's gotta hurt.
Which tells me, wait, so can you go to other universes from the Star Wars universe?
I have no idea.
I
find it funny.
Are you telling me that Star Wars isn't actually a documentary?
No. I want it, please.
Dude, straight up, I mean, see, I'm not going to get in this rant. I'm just saying people are stupid when they say Kingdom Hearts and Star Wars won't work. It would literally work.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but so the pod race scene's awesome. I like that there's actually very minimal music. I like how in old movies, especially Hitchcock films, where there's scenes where there's an extended lapse of no music, and that works well for the pod racing scene. Nothing against John Williams. That guy could score anything for anything because, he's John effing Williams.
Mm-hmm. John Williams, you are amazing. You are an incredible composer.
And it's like, but the lack of music actually, I don't want to say intense because it's fun and you're into it, but the lack of music actually, it does add to the intensity of the race because it is a do or die situation for Anakin and the Jedis, and Qui-Gon's putting all his faith in this kid. He's gonna win, but I appreciate that they still took the time to build up suspense, show he has troubles. They had that whole engine not starting thing, so.
And really going, do you notice that when the music actually does start up, it starts up at a very tense moment? It's the final lap.
Yeah.
They are like 3/4 of the way done with the race already, or 3/4 through the track already on the final lap.
Yeah.
And then that sensor starts going off, and you're like, oh crap, we're in trouble here. And I will say, now for any of you guys who were big into Dreamcast and N64 back in the day, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer was one of the best video games I ever played. And hearing that music on the final lap just filled me with such joy. It is my favorite track out of anything Star Wars.
Well,
the only thing that can come close to that is in A New Hope when they're first entering the Death Star. The da-da, da-da, da-da. God, I love that.
Every time I hear that song, because it pops up in the games, I'm just like, oh God, I am ready to go Rambo right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, if I'm picking a Star Wars track, you know which one it is.
Which let's address the other big scene.
Darth freaking Maul.
He is an interesting character because you don't know about him, but you don't need to.
I know, that's literally
everything in Coruscant. When him and Sidious are talking, it's like literally his one line throughout the whole movie was, or one of like 2 lines he ever had was, "At last we reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we have revenge."
You've
And
done
I'm just
well,
like,
my apprentice.
You will find defeating them will not be difficult. God, that scene just solidifies the fact that Darth Maul is not only a Sith, but a master in the dark side and also a killing machine.
He didn't really even use much of the Force in the fight either. So I'm actually curious what he could have done with the Force if he had really used it more. I mean, as I'm sure you've heard by now, he shows up again in Clone Wars, but and he gets a lot more lines. You go into his backstory, you meet his brother, but nothing really beats the silent intensity, that the quiet rage that he brought forth in the in this movie. Not because it's live action versus computer animation. They could have done the same thing in that if they wanted to. But what I'm saying is that Darth Maul is one of those few exceptions where it's like, they didn't go into this, they didn't explain this, but you know what? By God, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Da 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 da.
Now that scene, I mean, honestly, they're going through the generator area with all these. It's pretty much a huge generator room.
Yeah.
Like, how in the heck does this make sense? But I don't care. It's too awesome.
Is it the generator for the planet?
I think it's the generator for the palace.
Is it the heart of the world? How much power does that palace need? I was gonna work in a Kingdom Hearts reference, but seriously, who need what? do they have like their own like light parade that they do every night or something?
I don't know, but
But I agree with you about that whole fight. From the minute the doors open, you see Maul, and then they're fighting. It goes back to Padme fighting the droids and getting to the Viceroy, and then the droids fighting the Gungans. Like that whole 8 minutes is one of my. It has to be top 5. I might even put top 3. Just favorite sequences in a picture in a film ever, because it's so well done.
oh, it's
That's
so good.
That's one thing you gotta give the prequel trilogy. I'll even give Attack of the Clones. The action scenes are bomb.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm wondering about for Force Awakens. I mean, I don't know what the state of the Jedi Order is in that, but there's only one Sith and a handful of stormtroopers left. So I hope the fights will still. I mean, one thing the the original trilogy had going for it was that it made up for not lightsaber battles with the ship battles, which were all really cool.
The ship battles are amazing, and think about it. This is a 3-part mega battle.
Yeah,
you have the Gungans and the droids on the other side of the planet,
and the Gungans are actually doing pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah, that they have this huge. You have this huge area that's just, this huge force field, and you have and that scene where the droids first come out of their little hangar thing.
Oh yeah, where they're all
turn on, and they all stand up, and once that's there, the guy who's the other general of the Gungan army is just exactly.
See, that's the moment where the droids were really established as a threat, because you see them every once in a while, and they're like, and they get killed by Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan or something. But then it's only when the entire armada comes out, and they all, like you said, stand up in perfect synchronization and turn like, it's like, oh yeah, these guys kill things a lot. Whoa. Can I just say really quick? I love Palpatine. I love that actor because he has a literally perfect balance, no matter what movie, of overacting and acting just good enough. Like, I love shots of him where it's just him in the hood and you just see his mouth, because he was just like, where he's just like, it's like, fighting them will not be difficult. His lips this sounds weird, but his lips are so expressionate, and it's hilarious, but it's like, he's the leader of the Sith, and there only needs to be 2, and if he's the master, you don't even need to tell someone that he's a threat. He's obviously a threat. Look at the guy.
Mm-hmm. And really, you never see anything other than the hologram of him the whole movie.
Yeah. Well, there is that one scene where he's walking with Darth Maul, but other than that, it's no way.
Yeah.
Is he a walking hologram on that? Because remember,
he's a walking hologram when they're going through the Naboo palace.
Yeah, when he's talking to the Viceroy.
Mm-hmm. And really, just their planning and strategizing was really interesting, because these people know their palace more than the Viceroy and the general do, or as Sidious would say, skunked slime.
Skunked slime.
I get this skunked slime out of my sight.
And he has the greatest kill them all one-liners ever. Execute Order 66. And in this one, he's like, wipe them out. All of them. It's like, It's like this movie, all 6 of these movies are honestly kind of cheesy space operas, but the Emperor has a lot of people killed. The entire Jedi Order, who knows how many races he decimated after the Empire took over.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, when you really look at Palpatine, he's almost more menacing because he's just a hologram. Because you never see anything of him. and you just hear his voice, you don't know it's, you know, Count or Senator Palpatine at that point, you know.
Oh yeah, and it's like, I mean, it's obvious without it being super obvious, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like in the trailers for Revenge of the Sith, they basically tell you, no, Palpatine's the bad guy. But I mean, for the first movie, I mean, even if you already knew, I mean, there's a clear distinction between the two, even in the second movie. But the third movie, you know, they started subtly, but then it's after a point, they're just basically like, you know, he basically tells Anakin, "I'm the bad guy, and I need you to work for me." And Anakin's like, "Okay, now go kill children."
Yeah. Now,
Which I have an interesting point about that, but I'll talk about that when we're at Revenge of the Sith.
and I already have something going on between Padme and Anakin that I will explain when we get to episode 3 as well.
Yeah.
Now,
so where are we at? Oh yeah, sorry, keep going.
so, you know, with episode 1, you kind of see both sides of the conflict and how each side strategizes their moves. Because, you know, at the beginning of the movie, you see that they're planning an invasion of Naboo, even though it's not legalized yet.
Yeah.
Because they're just
And they're
bad guys.
They also know the council, so they know that they're too incompetent to they're basically, the whole point of that meeting is so they can authorize a search warrant of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But I see what you're saying, because, like, you know, there's 3 battles. You have Sidious's right-hand dude at the time fighting the 2 Jedi Masters that stand in his way. Master and a Padawan. Then you've got the princess fighting their way to the Viceroy. And then you've got a whole nother legion fighting the Naboo, the Gungan. And we forgot this. There's a space battle, too.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have the forces for a command ship. And honestly, they're pretty well equipped. I mean, I don't want to talk bad about the stormtroopers, but I mean, let's be honest. When the rebels tried, they kicked their butts pretty easily. Like on Endor, they have 1 base, and honestly, for all intents and purposes, Han Solo just kind of walks right in.
Pretty much walks in. You're going to do what I say because I have a gun pointed at you.
And I mean, they blow it up. And you know, they do get attacked. Some Ewoks get killed, but I mean, and I know, and a lot of their forces are at the Death Star, and you know, and then there's that, and then you know, Vader takes out the Emperor, but it's, I don't know, maybe Palpatine just got Alzheimer's with age or something. Nah, he looks like he has dementia.
Now, with this space battle, 2 interesting things. One, Anakin is in there fighting with them, which is okay. Honestly, this is where I feel his acting is the weakest, because it's like, I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. Or it's like, this is tense. Whoa! Just
look at it this way. I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. Poorly written and acted line, or thinly veiled Star Fox reference. I would like to go with the latter, personally. But also personally, I prefer the Air. So what do I know?
Mm-hmm.
Another Star Fox reference. Play Star Fox. So, like, but yeah, space battle is cool. And you know, one thing I really learned about the space battle is that is really the true definition of pod racing.
Wow. Now, here's the thing that I find interesting. You know, the Naboo starfighters, the design of them is cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
easily.
Especially when you can unlock them when you can unlock it in the first Rogue Squadron game.
They're kind of like Y-wings. No. Yeah, they're kind of like Y-wings were the bomber ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're kind of like Y-wings, but they're not Y-wings at the same time, you know?
They're a combination of the Y-wing and the X-wing, I think.
Yeah, they're sleek like a tie destroyer though.
Exactly. And he's in there and he just accidentally blows something up. Oh, better get out of here. And then it's the whole droid control ship falling apart.
Which, to be honest, I mean, that's pretty satisfying, though, to see. I'm sorry. The Viceroy are some of those villains where it's like, it's not that you're poorly written. I just hate you.
Mm-hmm.
I hate not out of bad, but because sometimes they're good written characters, but other times they're just garbage. But I hate the cowardly diplomatic villain. The one where that talks a big game, but they hide behind. But when shit goes wrong, they're quick to hide behind their forces or beg for mercy. That's the Vice. That's why that whole scene in Revenge of the Sith, where Anakin's going to town on them. I'm like, I don't feel bad, and I don't feel bad about that.
Yeah.
Seriously, screw you guys.
Absolutely. And, yes, I have to say I have seen the Harry S. Plinkett videos of these. But the point where it's like, oh, hey, what's up? Listen, I can't talk right now. I'm doing my new Star Wars movie. We can talk about, oh my God, what's wrong with your face?
Is that the support beam to the house? But so stuff blows up, people get cut in half, people get stabbed, people die, Naboo's liberated, and they give Qui-Gon a Viking funeral a la Darth Vader. But no disrespect towards Vader, but Qui-Gon actually deserved that Viking funeral. I know Vader took out the Emperor, but let's be real. Even if we don't talk about the books, in the movies, he's still a pretty evil dude.
Mm-hmm.
And
really looking at it,
he's way more evil if you play the Force Unleashed.
Oh yeah,
but he's straight up a dick in that one.
Mm-hmm. But really looking at Darth Maul and the fact that the force fields come up, and Qui-Gon opts to just sit there and just kind of meditate.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that is cool.
He was preparing himself too.
Exactly. And that whole scene was so well shot.
Oh yeah, and that's a really tense moment because it's like you're hoping it's like, oh God, Obi-Wan, make it in time, and then it's like, Qui-Gon, please hold out, and then he gets stabbed, and then coincidentally the Gungans are defeated, kind of. Padme's captured, kind of, but everything just goes bad at that point. The ship in the sky isn't even blown up yet. So things are looking pretty bad. And
Mm-hmm.
Qui-Gon is everyone's favorite character in this movie. So honestly, even today when I watched that scene, I'm like, oh. And he's not like the other characters where he comes back in hologram form. No, Qui-Gon's just dead. They mention him once or twice, but no, he's dead.
Yeah, pretty much.
No more Qui-Gon, no Jedi Afterlife, no spin-off, no prequel about him, no game based on him. No, let's give Boba Fett a movie, but let's not even give Qui-Gon Jinn a second thought. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I understand completely that it's Boba Fett, but understand this. It's Qui-Gon Jinn and it's Liam Neeson. Mm-hmm. He has a very particular set of skills. Let's look at his movies. He's punched wolves. He played a god. The Force is basically God mode in your hands. You don't mess with that guy's repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Darth Maul gets killed. The droids all stop, and the Viceroy are captured. Blah blah blah. Yoda's like, train the boy, but don't let him fall to the dark side. You nitwit. And the ending is basically a parody. Not a parody. I don't even want to say parody. It's kind of an homage, kind of, to the ending of A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
Where, what is that orb that the Gungan leader holds? Where he's like, peace. What?
I think it's just a peace orb. Like a gift of acceptance or something like that.
Yeah, but has anyone ever explained that?
No, I don't believe so.
So yeah, that's the Phantom Menace. Honestly, as I talk about the movie, I like it even a little more. I was gonna give this movie like a 7, but Honestly, I'm giving this an 8.
I'm going to say I'm going to give this a 7.5 because, you know, as much as I love this movie, it's nowhere near as good as Revenge of the Sith.
And that
It's
Coruscant
certainly
part
not
is
as good,
so
and certainly not as good as Return
Empire.
of the Jedi, in my opinion, or even Empire
Oh,
Strikes Back.
that's right. You're a Jedi guy. And honestly, you know, the Coruscant. Now, this is just my opinion. I can overlook the Coruscant part, and I can overlook some of the acting and some of the writing because honestly, even before I saw Attack of the Clones, I took Phantom Menace at face value, and there was one thing we didn't touch on: midi-chlorians.
Oh my.
We already talked a while, so I'm just going to sum up my thoughts with this. It's basically nanomachines for Metal Gear fans, and both are similar, I think. Look, Lucas and Kojima explained some things that we didn't necessarily need to know, but if we were told it, you know, then you know, that's fine. And whereas Kojima did it because that was going to be his be-all, end-all, and he knew either way fans were going to like it, and that was the only logical thing he could do. Lucas pulled this out of nowhere. And while it works, because the midi-chlorians thing does work, it does take away from the gifted talents that people were led to believe that Jedis possessed in order to be a Jedi, not, you know, science. And then Anakin was conceived by the midi-chlorians. So I totally forgot to mention that they play Anakin up as Jesus, but he turns out to be Lucifer's he turns out to be Satan's archangel Lucifer by episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, midi-chlorians, I honestly don't care. It does ruin the mythical factor of it to me. But honestly, they never talk about midi-chlorians outside of this movie. So, and while it is canon, honestly, it's super easy to forget.
Yeah, absolutely. I even forgot about it until you brought it up.
Oh, I'll never forget about midi-chlorians because I live and breathe the internet lifestyle, and by that I mean I've seen a lot of reviews of this movie, and all of them say the exact same thing: screw Jake Lloyd, screw George Lucas, screw midi-chlorians. The original trilogy was perfect except for the Ewoks. You know, It's so easy to be a generic Star Wars reviewer, critic, oh my god. But no, this movie is good, and compared to a future movie and some other things about the Star Wars universe, like games or books, this is not as bad as it gets, and it's not as bad as it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Could the movie have been better? Could the movie have been better? Yes. It does feel like the pacing was a little jagged at times, because like 1 minute you're on a trade ship, then you're on the Boo, then you're in Tatooine, then you're back on the Boo, then you're in Coruscant, then you're, you know. But other than that, that's why I wore the shirt. I don't give a damn, because I like this movie. Mic dropped. Oh, mic dropped. That was my mouse, but you know.
So yeah, like I said, this is going to be a weekly thing. Today is going to be the first of them, and then next week will be episode 2, and then episode 3, and so on and so forth. And we're going to kind of go through and do general discussions, kind of like we did here, and then we'll have the Force Awakens a week after. It's going to be so awesome. So thank you guys for joining us. And thank you, Snake Kid, for doing this.
I love Star Wars.
It's so good. So yeah, that's it from me, Dark Samus 288.
And Snakeskin 94.
And we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
May the Force be you know.